The annual Bennett family gathering was in full swing at Aunt Patricia's mansion, crystal glasses clinking as everyone celebrated their latest achievements. I sat quietly at the corner of the massive dining table, watching my relatives compete to outshine each other with tales of their success. I'm Madeline Bennett, though in my professional life I go by MJ Bennett. At 33, I was the family's greatest disappointment, the one who walked away from the prestigious Bennett Consulting Group to start my own company. Or as they like to call it, my little side project. Did you hear about Charles's new partnership? Aunt Patricia's voice carried across the table. Youngest partner ever at Goldman Sachs. Now that's what I call achievement. My cousin Charles raised his glass, basking in the attention. He'd been writing that partnership announcement for months, though anyone who actually knew Wall Street understood it was more about his last name than his abilities. And Rebecca's new fashion line, my mother chimed in, nodding toward my sister. Already in talks with major retailers. She's carrying on the Bennett tradition of excellence. I took a sip of wine, hiding my smile. If they only knew that my little side project had just closed its 20th acquisition this year. But I had learned long ago to keep my success quiet. In my world, stealth was an advantage. What about you, Madeline? Aunt Patricia turned her sharp gaze to me. Still working on that. What do you call it? That startup of yours. Something like that, I replied vaguely. Let them think I was struggling with a small business. It made acquisitions easier when companies didn't see you coming. Darling, my mother sighed, I wish you'd reconsider joining the family firm. Your father could still find a place for you in middle management. It's not too late to have a real career. I thought about the corner office I occupied in my company's headquarters. Not that any of them knew where that was. Nova Technologies operated entirely through subsidiaries and shell companies, our true ownership hidden behind layers of corporate structure. I'm happy where I am, Mom. Happy? Aunt Patricia scoffed. How can you be happy being nothing when your cousins are out there achieving greatness? The words stung even though I'd heard variations of them for years. I glanced at my watch, an understated Patek Philippe that cost more than Charles's annual bonus. In exactly 20 minutes, everything would change. Speaking of achievement, my Uncle George boomed from the head of the table. We have exciting news about Bennett Consulting. We're in final negotiations for our largest client ever, Standard Motors. A complete digital transformation contract worth at least $50 million. My cousin James, now a senior VP at Bennett Consulting, couldn't contain his smirk. Actually, Uncle George, the latest projection is closer to $70 million. Once we finish the acquisition of Thomson Digital, we'll be the only firm capable of handling Standard's full portfolio. I kept my expression neutral even as my phone buzzed in my purse. That would be my team confirming that everything was in place. Poor James had no idea that Thomson Digital had quietly been a Nova Technologies subsidiary for the past 3 months. Now that's real business, Aunt Patricia declared, shooting me another condescending look. Not these little internet startups that anyone can throw together. If they only knew that Nova Technologies was about to become one of the largest tech consulting firms in North America. We'd spent years acquiring smaller companies, integrating their technologies, building something revolutionary while staying completely under the radar. How is your business doing, Madeline? My sister Rebecca asked with fake concern. Still working from that small office downtown? That small office was actually a front. A deliberately modest space we maintained for meetings with companies we planned to acquire. Our real headquarters occupied the top 10 floors of a downtown skyscraper, though it was owned through a holding company with no visible connection to me. It pays the bills, I said mildly, checking my watch again. 15 minutes. Bills. Charles laughed. What bills? That studio apartment you rent? The used car you drive? Come on, Maddie, it's time to grow up and join the real business world. I thought about my penthouse in the city, my house in the Hamptons, the private jet I kept at a small airfield outside town. All carefully hidden under corporate ownership, all part of the elaborate smokescreen I'd built. The real business world isn't always what it appears to be, I said carefully. Oh, spare us your startup wisdom, James rolled his eyes. While you've been playing entrepreneur, we've been building something substantial. The Standard Motors contract will make Bennett Consulting the biggest player in digital transformation. 10 minutes now. I took another sip of wine. You know, my father spoke up, It's not too late to be part of this, Madeline. The Standard Motors project will need managers at all levels. Even someone with your limited experience could find a role. I thought about the documents waiting to be signed, the press releases ready to go, the carefully orchestrated sequence of events that would transform both our companies. Thanks, Dad, but I think I'll stick with what I'm doing. Which is what, exactly? Aunt Patricia demanded. None of us even knows what your company does. At least the rest of the family has real achievements to share. 5 minutes. Sometimes the biggest achievements are the ones you don't see coming, I said quietly. Please, Charles snorted. The biggest deal you've ever handled probably wouldn't cover my monthly car payment. If he only knew about the billions in acquisitions I'd orchestrated over the past 5 years. The technologies we'd developed, the patents we held, the innovations we'd quietly revolutionized. 2 minutes. I just worry about you, dear, my mother sighed. Everyone else is doing so well and you're still, well, still a nobody, Aunt Patricia finished with a smirk. 1 minute. I set down my wine glass and straightened in my chair, watching the doorway. Right on schedule, my assistant Julia appeared, looking perfectly professional in her tailored suit. The family barely noticed her entrance. They never paid attention to the help. Excuse me, Julia's voice cut through the chatter. Madam CEO, I apologize for the interruption, but the $100 million acquisition is ready for your final approval. The Thomson Digital Board is waiting for your signature. The silence that fell over the dining room was absolute. Every head turned toward me, expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. Thomson Digital? James choked out. But we're supposed to. Thank you, Julia, I said calmly, standing up. Please inform the board I'll be there shortly. And make sure the press releases are ready, both for the Thomson acquisition and for our new position as majority shareholder in Bennett Consulting Group. The sound of my aunt's wine glass shattering on the marble floor was particularly satisfying. Sometimes the best revenge isn't telling people they're wrong. It's waiting for the perfect moment to show them. And my moment had finally arrived. The Bennett family boardroom looked exactly as I remembered it. All mahogany and pretension, with oil paintings of pastos lining the walls. My father's portrait hung at the end, though he looked much younger in the painting than the shell-shocked man who now sat at the head of the table. I'd given them an hour to process the news before calling this emergency board meeting. An hour to realize that their nobody daughter had outmaneuvered them all. Now I sat at the opposite end of the table, Julia efficiently setting up my laptop while my family struggled to comprehend how their world had turned upside down. This is impossible, James kept muttering, frantically scrolling through his phone. Nova Technologies. MJ Bennett. The acquisitions. How did we not know? Because you never bothered to look, I said calmly, nodding to Julia as she finished the setup. You were so convinced I was a failure that you never considered I might be building something bigger than Bennett Consulting could ever imagine. But Thomson Digital, my father's voice cracked. We had a deal with them. We were going to. You had a preliminary agreement, I corrected him. With a company that Nova Technologies already owned. Through a subsidiary that you never bothered to investigate because you were too busy celebrating your imaginary victory. Aunt Patricia, who had insisted on attending despite not being on the board, found her voice. You deliberately deceived your own family. Worked against our interests. How could you? I smiled, remembering all the times she'd called me a nobody. I didn't work against anyone's interests. I built something revolutionary while you were all too busy mocking my little side project to notice. The fact that it interferes with your plans is simply unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing? Charles exploded. You've destroyed the Standard Motors deal. Without Thomson Digital's technology, we can't. Actually, I cut him off, pulling up a presentation on the boardroom screen. Nova Technologies will be handling the Standard Motors contract. They signed with us this morning, all $120 million of it. The room erupted in chaos. James looked like he might faint. My father gripped the table edge so hard his knuckles went white. Even my mother, sitting in the observers section, had lost her perfect composure. Let me explain how this is going to work, I continued over their protests. Nova Technologies now owns controlling interest in Bennett Consulting Group. We'll be restructuring the leadership, modernizing operations, and implementing actual innovation instead of relying on the family name to win contracts. You can't do this, my father declared, but his voice lacked conviction. The board won't. The board already has, I nodded to Julia, who distributed documents to each member. Your outside directors voted 2 hours ago. They seem quite impressed with Nova's track record of turning around underperforming consulting firms. Underperforming? James sputtered. We're one of the largest. You were, I corrected him. Until you started losing market share to more innovative competitors. Your client retention rate has dropped 40% in the past 3 years. Your technological capabilities are at least 2 generations behind. The only thing keeping you afloat was your reputation, and even that was fading. I clicked to the next slide, showing Bennett Consulting's declining metrics. While you were all celebrating your imaginary successes, I was building a company that actually delivers results. Nova Technologies has a 98% client retention rate, cutting-edge proprietary technology, and a culture of real innovation, not just family connections. And now you're what? Aunt Patricia's voice dripped with venom. Going to fire your own family? No one's getting fired, I said calmly. But there will be changes. James, you'll be stepping down as VP. Your recent decisions have cost the company millions. Charles, your position is safe, but you'll be reporting to our new head of strategy. Dad. I met his eyes across the table. It's time to retire. My father seemed to age years in seconds. All this time, while we thought you were failing, I was succeeding beyond anything you could imagine, I finished for him. Nova Technologies isn't just bigger than Bennett Consulting, we're bigger than the top 5 consulting firms combined. We own 37 companies across 4 continents. Our technology patents alone are worth billions. Why? My mother asked quietly. Why hide it all? Why not tell us? I thought about all the family dinners where they'd belittled my choices, all the holidays where they'd treated me like a cautionary tale. Would you have believed me? Would you have treated me any differently? Or would you have tried to take control just like you've tried to control everything else in this family? No one had an answer for that. The press release goes out in 1 hour, I continued. Bennett Consulting Group will become a subsidiary of Nova Technologies. The family name stays, it still has some value, but the leadership changes immediately. And what about us? James asked, his arrogance finally broken. What happens to the family? I stood up, smoothing my jacket. That depends on you. Those who can adapt, who can prove their actual value beyond their last name, will have a place in the new organization. Those who can't. I shrugged. There's always room in middle management. Julia appeared at my side. Madam Seo, the Standard Motors implementation team is waiting for your call. And the Thomson Digital Integration Plan needs your approval. Thank you, Julia. I gathered my things, pausing at the door. One last thing. All those years when you thought I was nothing, I was actually building everything. Remember that the next time you decide to judge someone's worth by their title or their name. That evening I sat in my real office, the one they'd never seen, looking out over the city lights. The press release had gone out, and business news was exploding with headlines about the hidden tech giant and the secret Bennett success story. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members, ranging from apologetic to angry to sycophantic. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the actual work of running my empire. Julia knocked on my door. The family's stock just lost 30% of its value on the news of the restructuring. Your cousin Charles is trying to schedule an urgent meeting. I smiled, remembering his smug face at dinner. Tell him to go through proper channels. I'm busy running a real business. Also, she added with a slight smirk, your Aunt Patricia is in the lobby demanding to see you. She seems quite upset about the new company car policy. Let her wait, I said, turning back to my work. I've got $100 million deal to implement. Success, I've learned, isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right in ways they never imagined possible. While they were busy mocking my choices, I was busy building an empire. While they celebrated their small victories, I was achieving things they couldn't even comprehend. My phone buzzed again, a text from my father. I never saw it. Any of it. I'm sorry. I typed back. That was the point. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't telling people they're wrong. It's showing them just how right you've been all along. And sometimes the greatest success story is the one no one sees coming until it's already won. Julia appeared again. Standard Motors CEO is on line 1. And the new board members are ready for their orientation. I nodded, picking up the phone. Time to go back to running the company that no one had believed I could build. After all, I had an empire to run, all $100 billion of it. Sometimes being a nobody is the perfect cover for becoming somebody they never saw coming.